Hello, everybody. Good evening. I am really excited to do this live interview tonight. Let me just fix one thing here. And I have a guest that's going to be joining, and we're talking about something that I kind of just learned about really over the weekend. It was something on my consciousness, but I didn't know that much about it. And after he and I talked over the weekend, I just thought it was so interesting that I wanted to bring him on and share. So I'm going to just bring my guest here. And it looks like it's syncing quickly. Hello, how are you?
Good, Nicole. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome. So I'm just going to share with the audience. We kind of met in a really weird way. So Hilawe and I both live in Asheville, North Carolina, but we actually met in the airport. I think it was in Houston or in Austin, Texas. So we had both been at a conference for, it was essentially all millionaire and billionaire entrepreneurs who were speaking, and it was great. It was the best conference that I've ever attended. And so we were there. It was, I don't know, maybe 500 people there. So we didn't actually talk there, but we talked at the airport. And we found out we both live in the same place. We've been at the same conference. And funny enough, I did an interview with somebody else I met at that conference a couple of weeks ago with Kendall Johnson, and Hilawe saw our video and was commenting. So it's just crazy, this kind of small world and the way that we met. And so I hosted a Bitcoin meetup locally on Saturday. It's something I'm doing every other week now with my friend Michael. And Hilawe came, and he ended up giving us a lot of education, which was really, really cool. So just the few things I know about you: you have a PhD in meteorology, so you still work in that field. You do a lot of different investing, and you've also been in the crypto space for a while. So maybe if you could just start by telling us how you got into this space and when.
Oh, thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so I got in 2013. I came across a video by Andreas Antonopoulos on YouTube, and he was talking about the future of money. I was like, what is this? And I was just taken by the technology right away, mainly because my family and I immigrated from communist Ethiopia, and we know all about, in the mid-1980s, so we all know about political and financial repression, and most people in the West don't really experience that. So I always felt like there should be a way for humans to survive these types of awful, violent governments that appear. And there's a lot of people who have like trapped money. They're in a geographic location that's horrible politically for them. And so when I heard Andreas's YouTube, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this actually looks like a solution. Still was a bit crazy for me. Like, I was just like, where did this come from? Satoshi, some guy, nobody knows who he, she, they is, and all that stuff. So yeah. And then, so in 2014, I was like, I'll just jump in. So I started, off Coinbase. I just did an auto draft, bank draft, and I just let it run. Unfortunately, whatever I put in the beginning just went down immediately. So I was like, I can't even look at it. So I just stopped looking at it for like a year or something. And I'll look at some videos here and there. But I just let it run and try not to think about it, which was best for my psyche. Then I came across a video by Amanda B. Johnson. She made this YouTube video series on called Dash School. And so she walked through why basically, Dash was a bigger improvement on what Bitcoin had done. And, instead of just like waiting around, I just took all that Bitcoin and put it all into Dash. She talked about what's things called like master nodes, and I can explain that more about why that's an important function in the Dash world. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let me pause there because I'm going to assume a lot of our viewers don't know what Dash is.
Yeah.
I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know the premise. And so for those of you who are watching who maybe know the word Bitcoin, but you don't know necessarily like what altcoins are. So there are I haven't checked the market today, but roughly 1,600 altcoins. So an altcoin is a digital or cryptocurrency that isn't Bitcoin. So any cryptocurrency that isn't Bitcoin is referred to as an altcoin. And Dash is one of the big ones. I think it's still in the top 15 right now in terms of market cap. So how much money is invested in that coin overall. So obviously, you know, you believe in this coin hardcore, and given your background and where you come from, it makes a lot of sense. So maybe if you could just tell us like what the premise of Dash is and why you were so excited about it.
Yeah, so Bitcoin will always be my first love, you know, crypto-wise. But, you know, it's far from perfect. And Dash stands for digital cash. So it takes all the decentralized technology that Bitcoin has already and expands on it tremendously. So it's got started back in early 2014 by Evan Duffield. And I can go through why it's my favorite project. Just basically, the biggest part is the block reward. So Bitcoin, the block reward all goes to miners, 100% of it. But in Dash, about 45% goes to the miners, 45% goes to master nodes, and 10% to a treasury budget, kind of a development grant. And it's paid out directly through the blockchain every month. So basically, in these development projects can be proposed by anybody who's willing to do marketing, development work, infrastructure work, or just giveaways. Just give away Dash to people who may need it more. And the master nodes, basically, they're kind of like they stake their claim on the network, and they have basically incentive to not mess around or destroy the network because they have 1,000 Dash. So you have to have 1,000 Dash to stake. So yeah, so basically we vote every month, and there's about 2.1 million a month that we can give out. And yeah, if they're successful, they get paid directly through the blockchain, which is tremendous.
Awesome. And you're a master node.
Yeah. So I was very lucky when I made that move to Bitcoin.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, and basically it pays about 8% per annum, you know, so that's pretty good. So if you're a node owner in Bitcoin, you're basically doing it for free as a service. And you see Andrea say it on YouTube videos, please own a master node. Please spend a bunch of your money running a node for everybody. And master nodes are like, how about not only will we run it, we'll get paid to do it. Plus, we've included, masters also do what's called private send. So they do kind of a coin mixing. So that brings fungibility or privacy to the coin. So each Dash is basically, if it's been run through a mixer, it's basically, you know, no one can tell where it came from. You know, privacy and money is a right, is the way I look at it now. I never used to look at it that way, but, you know, private money is a human right, really. So, and the other thing is instant send. So you've heard all the issues with, you know, it takes a long time for Bitcoin to confirm. With the instant send feature, which masternodes do, that can actually be done in a second or two. So that's pretty good. I mean, Lightning Network's come around, so that could also provide something. But again, this is on the second tier network. So the masternode, and then you have the miners. So you have the proof of work, kind of a proof of stake on the masternode side, and then you have 10% for developments. So that's, and then the most important part is governance. So we basically, as masternode owners, can decide if the Dash core, which are the main developers for the network, if we don't like what they're doing, we can actually fire them and bring in Team B, you know, and that's huge. So there's just, if somebody is unhappy, they just fork off. You know, there's none of this, oh, you did this to me a year ago, and you did this, you completely ruined Bitcoin, and all this talk is gone. People just, well, that's not my direction. They just leave. And yeah, it's just a better way to really go about it. And last is the evolution. So they're coming out, the developers are coming out with evolution, Dash evolution. So this provides way to store data in the master nodes so that they can do work on the blockchain, on the Dash blockchain, without actually clogging it up. So that's it. And so decentralized applications can be developed. So these application developers, whatever language they want to use, C++, anything like that, they can run it on their end and then use Dash for processing their whatever their project is on the Dash blockchain. And also smart contracts can run that way. So it's not just Ethereum anymore. You know, there's.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So Dash is actually like going where Ethereum is, except if somebody wants to run CryptoKitties, it won't really clog down the Dash blockchain because we're not really letting the processes run on our end, which is actually a big flaw for Ethereum. Still grateful they did it because they're paving the path, kind of. And also usernames. So right now we have all these alphanumeric characters. You know, they go on forever, and nobody wants to look at that. So you can create as many usernames as you want in Dash Evolution and actually send it to people, and still send those transactions with different addresses. So you're still kind of protected. You know, like it's not going to be tracked down to you as much. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and it's super techy, right? So that's going to be something that some people understand. Maybe some people are going to be a little bit more curious about it because of hearing those things. So I hear smart contracts, I hear privacy, I hear decentralization and control by the network again versus you know, those centralized parties. And I love all of those things. For those who may not, let's say, who may not care about the tech side of things, right? What is it about Dash as a project that you can share with the audience and that really appealed to you?
Yeah, so personally speaking, it was the basically the cash flow that you can get for a master, or if you have less than 1,000 Dash, you can actually go in with a trusted party and let them hold it, and they basically create a master node through other people's shares, and they'll pay you. So there's ways to do actual cash flow. It's not just holding a coin. So that's the more selfish personal part. But what's even more exciting is what it can do for the world. Basically, this treasury budget, we've funded Venezuelans, Zimbabwe. We've done a lot of giveaways. We've had projects in Mexico for the earthquakes. We've done projects for the floods in Houston, where actual blockchain money, I mean, it came from the blockchain and it was paid to these, it was contractors to actually help people get out of, you know, trouble in these areas. So yeah, that's the real promise that gets me excited, and just other developing countries too. And sending Dash through SMS, through text, that's something that's being developed through a Zimbabwe project, which is awesome because, I mean, you have to be careful with SMS. It's not the most secure, but if you send small bits of money, if you're a farmer in a developing country, that's a big deal. I mean, anything is better than the money that they're holding, which they can't even transact outside of their jurisdiction. So it really means a lot more. It's important in the West, but it means even more in other areas.
Yeah, I love that reminds me of an Andreas quote that says, Bitcoin is not about shopping in the first world. It's about everything else, everywhere else. And I love that. And that's what really got me excited to talk about Dash, is what it stands for. And, you know, you're sharing that people are actually going to these up and coming countries and handing out Dash essentially to people. So I didn't know this before tonight, but given that your family is from Ethiopia, which, as many people know, has been a country of turmoil for decades practically, how would you see this benefiting people who live in Ethiopia or other countries like it?
Yeah, so if there's massive adoption in these nations that you met, like Ethiopia and other developing nations, I could see like merchants, and even in the West, like even the larger corporations taking on a lot of the crypto payments and allowing an economy within those areas that are independent of whatever is going on around them. So just financial, I guess, other things they can't really help. That's the kind of stuff that gets me excited about where I think Dash is going to go, or where Bitcoin and other projects as well.
Yeah, it's certainly connecting to the humanitarian needs. And it's kind of that weird thing where, you know, you're invested in Dash and being a master node, and I'm invested in Bitcoin and some altcoin mining and some other things. And it's like, you want so badly and are so passionate about it because of that impact that it's going to have on people who have never had the opportunity to get out of poverty or to control what's theirs, or to participate in the global economy. And then there's that side of you that's kind of like, gosh, like, this is such an amazing humanitarian project, but I'm making money from it. So is that okay? I don't know if you ever feel conflicted like that, but I do. But I also I see spreading the word and being part of it as contributing to this humanitarian cause, which is going to change the world for the other 6 billion people. So I don't know how you feel about that, but
Exactly. Yeah. I guess I don't feel as guilty about the earning part.
Yeah. No, I've had to like check myself and say, okay, well, if the returns are what they are supposed to be, then with this money, I will fund this type of project and that type of project. 'Cause, you know, can't just be all about me, or then I'll feel guilty. But so I guess what do you find most exciting about being involved in the space of cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so the adoption coming up, I think in the next 2-3 years, we see Bitcoin in probably 6 digits. I think we talked about this, and if there's a top 15, top 20 coin, I mean, I think they're going to go off the roof. And, you know, I've seen Venezuelans who have like actually keeping Dash, because they make proposals. It's actually Venezuelans helping themselves. You know, that's the important thing. And they run conferences, Dash conferences in Venezuela. I mean, it's pretty crazy, with the logos and everything. You know, and they're like holding on to that money. You know, like, this really could help a ton of people. It's just a lot of promise out there for everybody. So I'm a big fan of holding on tight to your crypto, but I do believe in spending a little bit for merchants that accept it, because I think we have to help create the economy, help kind of create liquidity in the market. You know, just holding on tight, a hodl is generally a good thing, but yeah, we need to expand the network, so to speak, and the entire cryptosphere.
Yeah. And I think we don't see, I was just having, and this is something I've seen in videos online, and one of my coaching clients just got back from a couple of weeks in Asia, in Hong Kong and in Japan, and she was talking about how cryptocurrency is really accepted everywhere, in so many different places. So I think in certain parts of the world, it's already happening, right? Yeah. We just aren't feeling it here quite the same way, and people are blown away when people are like, well, you can't buy anything with it. I'm like, actually, that's not true. You can buy a Tesla with it, or you can pay for your vacation through Expedia with it, or you can, I mean, I flew out of the Atlanta airport last month and asked me if I wanted to pay by credit card or one of like 30 altcoins or Bitcoin. So it's really starting to pop up. And I heard, one of those commercials on the radio, this was last month, it was here in Nashville, about, those, they want to give you a cash advance for like 30% or whatever. But it was talking about if you want to remodel your home, or if you want to pay off debt, or if you want to do this or that, or if you want to buy the Bitcoin dip. It was one of the things. It was like on the radio. So I think when you start to pay attention, you're going to, like, for people watching, you're going to see that this is a lot more widespread than we might think. And so you started to kind of talk about this a little bit with the adoption and the price potentially, but anything else you can share in terms of, because you've been in this space, being in this space since 2013, you're like old school in the crypto space, right? Because it's only a 9-year-old space. I feel like nobody was really doing anything till 2010. So you're like there in the very beginning. So there's a lot happening really, really fast. But I guess where do you see things going over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I'm looking at other projects like EOS. So basically, they allow you to run decentralized applications on their blockchain. So, I mean, I said that with Dash as well, but what excites me with that is if you own EOS coins or tokens, when they become live, they're not even live yet, but when they become live, you can actually rent out that so-called blockchain real estate to these developers. So another, source of, cash flow. But basically, you can run a decentralized Uber, decentralized Facebook on these things. Basically, can't be shut down. Can't have Zuck doing all these things to us that we wouldn't know about and things like that, because it's going to be in a network. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that excites me. And also another project I really like, I mean, this is just a few examples out of many, is Salt. And so they do blockchain based loans. So especially for businesses and personal loans, but they prefer business loans. Basically, you collateralize, you put in a smart contract, let's say 10 Bitcoins, which is a lot, but they'll hold that, and in exchange, you get actual cash in your business bank account. And if you default, whatever, they just take your Bitcoin, like it's all automated mostly. I mean, their Salt kind of monitors what happens between the lender and the borrower. So, and they'll call margin on so-called it's kind of a margin call, but like if Bitcoin goes down really low, like they'll say, okay, we'll either eat up your Bitcoin like right now, or put more Bitcoin in, or put more Ethereum in, put more Dash in. They're going to accept Dash in later in Q3, I think, Q4. So that's tremendous. Like you can actually bring fiat or dollars into your account from your crypto without like having
Go through an exchange.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is this platform, and I'm sure others as well, have loan capabilities. And then we know coins like Bitcoin are created on an inherent platform of trust. So you don't need a third party to trust the other party. So is what I'm hearing you say that we don't need banks anymore?
No, this is the future right here. It's happening right now. It's live. They've given out like $15 million, I think, in loans already.
So yeah, if you could talk about that a little bit, like where do you see in, let's say, the next 8 to 10 years, what do you think is going to change or happen within our banking system?
I mean, they're going to be like the Kodaks, like they're just going to be like, oh, we're going to keep going just like the way it was and ignore digital cameras or whatever. And they're going to ask the government to help them.
Like more bailouts?
Yeah, to squash, I guess, cryptocurrencies, but it's going to be too late. They can't really stop it. There's nobody to attack. There's nobody to go after, except the only thing they can go after is where you take your dollars or euro to crypto. They can affect that.
Right.
And they can kind of put a damper on it temporarily. But long term, this is a train that cannot be stopped. I mean,
yeah,
it's
that's so cool.
Yeah, and I still think there will be stuff in the fiat world happening in the regular, like, I think transactions will still happen in regular currencies. But more so, they'll have to incorporate so much of the blockchain that, I think is going to start dominating our everyday life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so maybe this will be my last question. So I know you kind of have your own investments, your master node, you talk to the other master nodes, and that's kind of it. Like you're not out having tons of conversations around cryptocurrency. But I am, right? And so I talk to all kinds of people, and I meet people in very different places. I talk to people who have literally never heard of Bitcoin until they heard it come out of my mouth. They saw it on the news, and they had, they saw that it was it was really good for, criminals, and you can't buy anything with it, and it's crashed and all this stuff. So you see all this negative stuff. So they either don't know, they're negative, or they are people who have like a vague idea, but probably aren't going to spend the amount of time that I or that you have put into learning about this. So I'm telling people, like, this is the future. You need to make a decision and take some action in the next like 2, maybe 3 years if you want to really make money in this space before a Bitcoin is worth so much. Everyone's just a user of the technology. So what would you say to people who are like, I need to think about it, I'm not quite ready? What would you say to those people?
Well, I'd really insist that they do their homework, like actual read up on things, ask questions, and basically invest what they're comfortable with, if they're going to invest at all. I don't try to convince people too much, because when I bring it up in my circles, in the Western world especially, it's like, hey, like, I pull out my credit card, what's the big deal, like, it doesn't have the urgency that it does for countries where there's hyperinflation or things like that, or things going on. So you have to be kind of a visionary. Not compliment myself, but I'm just saying, like, you have to just see, we're entrepreneurs, we kind of live in the future. We try to bring that to the present. That's actually what we do, right? So we kind of like, we're trying to let everybody around us know, but I try not to say, I answer the questions out and I tell them this is where you can find more information. I refer them to Dash School, and Amanda B. Johnson has an amazing way of like educating people, not just for Dash, but just any type of blockchain education. I really don't have anything more than that. It's, the people who get it right away are suffering, like they'll get it immediately. Oh, I can, like, they're having 100% inflation every month. And you see Bitcoin go up $1,000 in one day or whatever. That's actually not too bad compared to their lives in the last 3 years or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it was in one of Andreas's videos, he talks about how it was on like a news program or something, a Zimbabwean farmer was pushing around his wheelbarrow full of money, and somebody asked if he was worried about having his money stolen, and he said, no, I'm more worried about having my wheelbarrow stolen, because he needed it to push around the money, and it was worth more than the money itself. So my feeling is, when I talk to people about this space, that we need to do a good job. I mean, obviously, I believe in helping to be part of the mass adoption that's taking place, and I want to spread the word. And you really have to encourage people to step outside of themselves and to see life from someone else's eyes, from the eyes of someone whose government would throw them off a building if they believed the wrong thing, or whose banks seized all of their assets to pay off their own debts. And if you can start to see the world through somebody else's eyes, you can see why this is so very important and why this is logically the next step. And for me is, understanding how this was going to be something that could really overthrow the banking industry. You answered even, I always have a lot of questions about that. And part of it is very clear to me, or the other part still mentally navigating, but you actually helped me clear up some things, especially around the loan capabilities. Because it's kind of an antiquated system that's really based on corruption and theft, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's no credit check. Think about that. And in fact, in that SALT system, a default is not considered like, we're going to come after you. It's just one of the options. They don't even like, it's not something like, you better, or we're going to come. No, it's just an option you exercise. And the lender is already taken all that. They've protected themselves enough where they're not going to lose huge chunk of money usually. So
Mhm.
it just takes away all this friction. I think that's a good
Mhm.
word. So
And what do you, yeah, and what do you say when people say, well, Bitcoin's not backed by anything?
I was, what do you say about the dollar? I mean, it's not backed by anything either, but it's the belief in the dollar, right?
Hmm.
It's what you
Yeah.
believe that matters. Someone tells you, and you have to pay your taxes by it, right? So it's by force. You have to use, like you're gonna believe in it that way. But Bitcoin is just, it's a network. If enough people are mining it, enough people are using it, um, if enough people are developing on it, like it just grows a network, just like any other system, whether it's in the non-crypto world or crypto world. That's what gives it value, is we're willing to trade with it.
Yeah, it's because we assign it value, right? Like the only currency in the history of money, the technology of money that has ever had true value is when we were in the age of, precious metals, right? Because, feathers and salts have very little value when you're talking about the barter system, like it can't even have a monetary value because it was before all of that. But, and then paper money doesn't really have much value. Plastic money certainly
Yeah,
doesn't. So I'm not sure why people think digital money is any different and suddenly not backed by anything. It's
yeah,
all perceived value, right?
exactly.
So, well, I love it. I don't know if anybody has questions. I know a lot of people are popping on and in and out. I haven't seen questions come through, just some comments that this was interesting. And I don't know, do you have anything else that you would like to add that maybe would open people's eyes or minds to this space or to Dash in particular?
I don't have anything more except just do your homework, look into it, look into videos. There's more to it than just spending. There's more to it than just gaining money or income or cashing out. All that stuff. It's bigger than what people think, and I just implore people just do your minimal amount of education. Just learn
Yeah.
more.
And it takes a while too, and you have to find the place that resonates with you. If when I went into this, all I found were techie videos, I would have never been interested in it. But because I found the human perspective and the historical perspective and how this impacts the future, that was everything for me. And that made me say, this is what I'm doing. This is
Yeah.
like half of my future. I have my other business, but this is the other half of my future. And I believe in it wholeheartedly for sure. And I think I had never heard of like what you're doing in terms of Masternode, which is such an interesting combination of like a couple of different components of almost like mining and staking and a couple different things
Yeah.
combined. And so I just really appreciate you taking the time to get on here and educate me and others tonight and being part of my personal 2018 mission, which is to spread the good and spread the good word of the cryptocurrency space. So I think I will go ahead and wrap it up. But this was great. I learned a lot, and we'll hopefully connect here again in Asheville soon.
Awesome. We'll do. It was awesome. It's just a great time. Appreciate you
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, and if people, I know we get a lot of people who watch later. If you have questions about this, I personally don't know all that much about Dash, but as soon as Hilawe started telling me what they were doing with those third world countries and actually passing out Dash to these people and giving them opportunity, I was like, okay, we're going to do a Facebook Live about this. So, but we
Yeah.
went far beyond that and really insightful. And Brendan and Jeanette and I think Steve said hi and awesome content. And yeah, if you have questions as you're watching later, just post them and we will certainly get back to you. And I hope you and everybody else have a great night.
Thanks,
Okay,
Nicole.
thanks. Bye.